Warm up. Before I correct anything tonight, I am going to confirm something, because the correction is narrow and the thing underneath it is not. On Tuesday, Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps fired multiple ballistic missiles at American forces in the Middle East. That is not a rumor, and it is not a talking point. United States Central Command said it in its own statement and called it an attempted surprise attack. Every single projectile was intercepted, and there were no casualties. Nobody in this file shrugs at incoming fire aimed at American troops, and nobody should. So the attack is real. What I am checking tonight is one detail, and it is the detail doing all the work in how this got sold to you. A video went up Tuesday evening under the title, "Surprise Attack While Trump Was Meeting with Bibi." Read that again, because it is making a specific claim about a clock. It says the missiles flew while the President of the United States was sitting in a room with the Prime Minister of Israel. That would mean Iran timed a salvo to land in the middle of a summit. 2 clocks, soldier. So let us put them side by side. CENTCOM says the missiles were launched at 5:45 in the evening, Eastern Time. That is the operational clock, from the command that was watching the launch, and it is the only launch time anybody official has given. Now the other clock. Netanyahu's visit was a midday one. He came in through a side entrance that reporters could barely see. The two of them met behind closed doors in the Oval Office with their delegations. There was no press conference afterward, and he left without fanfare about 90 minutes later. That was the 8th time these two have met since the president returned to office, and it was their first face-to-face since the war with Iran started back in February. A lunchtime meeting, done and dusted, and then hours of daylight before anything was launched at anybody. Here is my own honest limit on that, because I would rather hand you a smaller, true thing than a bigger, shaky one. I could not put my hands on a page I am willing to cite that pins his departure to the exact minute. What I can stand behind is the shape. A midday meeting of about 90 minutes and a launch at 5:45 in the evening. That is a gap measured in hours, not in minutes. Whatever the precise number, nobody was interrupted. The room had been empty for most of the afternoon, and you might reasonably ask why a few hours matters when the missiles flew either way. It matters because the two versions describe two different enemies. A launch timed to hit while two heads of state are in a room together is theater. It is a message aimed at those men, a deliberate humiliation with a stopwatch running. And it tells you somebody in Tehran wanted a headline more than an outcome. A launch at dinner time, hours after everyone has gone home, is a military decision inside a war that has been grinding since February. One of those is an insult. The other is a war. They do not call for the same response, and they do not put a president under the same pressure to answer. Now here is what got left out entirely, and it is the part that actually belongs in a thumbnail. American and Saudi forces flew joint strikes on Tuesday against what CENTCOM described as multiple terrorist logistics and weapon sites across eastern Iraq. And the reason given was not the missile launch. It was retaliation for more than 30 aerial drone attacks conducted over the previous 72 hours at the direction of the Iranian Revolutionary Guard. That is 30 drone attacks in 3 days, which is a tempo, soldier, and a tempo tells you more about where a war is heading than any single salvo does. Verdict on the claim: misleading, not false. The attack happened, the missiles were real, the interception was real, and the man who made that video did not invent an event. He moved it a few hours to the left so it would land inside a meeting, because a missile fired during a handshake is a better story than a missile fired at dinner time. Last night in this file I told you to believe the account that costs the speaker something. Tonight the test is simpler. When somebody hands you a dramatic simultaneity, ask them for both clocks. CENTCOM closed its statement by saying American forces remain vigilant and at a high state of readiness. That is the boilerplate a command uses when it expects more of the same. Which brings us back to the number nobody put on a thumbnail. 30 drone attacks in 72 hours, and a joint strike into eastern Iraq to answer them. The salvo that got the coverage was intercepted and hurt no one. The tempo underneath it is the thing to watch. File it. Dismissed. I'm Mark, and this is Pixel Politics.